With the introduction of Doctor Doom, we're once again reminded of the best live-action villain the MCU has ever brought to life. The one that shouldn't work as the perfect villain. He wants to kill half of all life in the universe. Not conquer it. Kill it.
Genocide.
Almost too simple to comprehend due to its straightforward nature. Instead, Thanos became one of the most talked about villains in blockbuster history. Not because people agreed with him, because they understood him. He doesn't see himself as a villain. He sees himself as the only being in the universe willing to make the choice everyone else is too weak to make.
At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it.
He mourns the people he kills. He weeps over Gamora. He retires to a farm after the snap, not to celebrate, but because, in his mind, the work is finished. He believes he saved something. Not only because of what he did in the films, but because he's arguably the most complete blockbuster villain ever put on screen.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
Thanos had something Doom currently doesn't. Payoff. The MCU spent years building Thanos. The first tease in the Avengers, the Infinity Stones slowly introduced across multiple films, his children established, and references throughout the Infinity Saga. By the time Infinity War arrived, you already felt like you knew him. When Thanos finally steps onto the battlefield, he doesn't feel like a new character. He feels like the inevitable conclusion of a decade-long story. And on top of all that, Thanos is actually the protagonist of Infinity War. A lot of villains react to heroes. He doesn't. The Avengers become obstacles in his journey because he has a clear objective, an internal logic, a personal sacrifice, character growth, even if it's in the worst way, and the final victory. The movie is structured almost like a hero's quest, except the hero is the villain. He's not evil for the sake of evil. He's convinced, and that conviction has been questioned for too long. Is he right? But what people don't understand is that conviction is built on fear and cowardice, two attributes Thanos had that made his logic fall apart, that make him look foolish for ever believing in his own conviction. So was Thanos actually the perfect villain? Or did we give him too much credit because he keeps dropping iconic line as soon as he opens his mouth?
I feel so desperately that you're right. Yet to fail, nonetheless.
Let's put Thanos through a simple system to rank how much damage he can do to the heroes. I call it the Fear Index. I use it to rank villains on 4 different traits: threat, motive, psychological damage, and truth. Among all the villains the Avengers had faced up to this point, Thanos was the strongest and most physically dominant one. Before Infinity War, we'd already heard how dangerous he is. The stories of Thanos were told like the boogeyman. So, when the first scene of Infinity War came on screen, the movie did not fail to deliver on that promise. Asgardian soldiers who had lived for centuries were dead or badly injured before the main fight even began. Then, Hulk came in. The MCU spent years teaching us that if things get really bad, Hulk can smash his way out. Not that he's an unstoppable force, but in order for anyone to defeat Hulk, you must have something up your sleeve. But Thanos walks in and beats him so badly that Hulk refuses to come back for the rest of Infinity War. He fights like a veteran warrior rather than a brute. Watch how he dismantles Hulk. No wild swinging. He's throwing counters, grapples, body shots, and exploiting openings. He fights like someone who has spent centuries conquering worlds, which he had.
Get him up, let him get up, let him get up, let him get up. Fight back, nigga! Fight back, nigga! Fight!
The biggest proof of physical superiority comes in the next scene, when Thanos outsmarts Loki's trick and snaps his neck with one hand. It was immediately clear this guy isn't the regular supervillain. He is the endgame. In the rest of his fights, including on Titan, after everything thrown at him, he walks away with barely a scratch. We, as the audience, after seeing the damage this guy can do, stop praying for the hero's victory and start praying for their survival. The only people who manage to hurt him physically are the ones driven by rage and anger. But Thanos doesn't only have raw strength alone. It's that he combines Hulk-level strength, centuries of combat experience, tactical intelligence, and extreme pain tolerance. Most villains have one of those. Thanos has all 4. So he gets himself out of those situations easily. What makes Thanos unique isn't that he's the strongest villain. It's that he creates a feeling that the heroes are physically outmatched by reality itself. Most MCU villains feel beatable. Loki gets swung around by Hulk. Ultron loses ground every few minutes. Thanos is different. Every time he appears, the story bends around his presence. The snap isn't shocking because half the universe disappears. The snap is shocking because by that point, we've already accepted that Thanos might actually be unbeatable. Thor then arrives with an axe-shaped hope, only for Thanos to snap his fingers the moment it looked like the heroes had a chance. On the Fear Index, Thanos scores a 10 out of 10 for threat, the only villain in this series so far to max out the category, because he's the only one the story ever actually lets win.
You should have gone for the head.
If Threat asks how much damage can he do, Motive asks a harder question. Why is he doing it? Most MCU villains fail this category instantly. Ultron wants humanity gone because he decided that's what peace means. Hela wants the throne because she believes it's owed to her. Even Killmonger, one of the better motivated villains, is driven by a personal grievance that never scales past his own bloodline. Thanos is different. His motive isn't personal ambition. It isn't revenge. It's math.
You're insane.
Little one, it's a simple calculus. This universe is finite, its resources finite.
He watched Titan die, not to war, not to an enemy, but to itself. A planet that grew too large for its own resources, that consumed itself into extinction. Thanos didn't invent a villain plan. He built a worldview out of grief, then convinced himself it was logic. It doesn't come from hatred. It comes from watching something break and deciding he'll never let it break the same way twice. Even if never again means erasing trillions of people who never asked to be saved. According to him, Titan collapsed because its population exceeded its resources. He proposed a random culling of half the population. Nobody listened. Titan died. Whether he's right about Titan is almost irrelevant. What matters is that Thanos believes he witnessed a preventable apocalypse. From that moment onward, he develops a messiah complex. In his mind, Titan died because people lacked the courage to make hard choices, and he had the correct solution, but nobody listened. Therefore, he must force the universe to accept the solution. And crucially, the plan isn't selective. He's not targeting a planet, a species, a bloodline he resents. Rich or poor, powerful or powerless, everyone has the exact same odds. In his mind, that isn't cruelty. That's fairness. Something he wants to be seen as. Fair, compassionate, and necessary. That's why the Soul Stone scene is so important. A typical tyrant sacrifices others. Thanos sacrifices someone he genuinely loves. Not because he's incapable of love, but because his ideology ranks above that love.
This isn't love.
I ignored my destiny once.
He can love you and still kill you if his mission demands it, because his morality is entirely outcome-based. To Thanos, killing one person is acceptable. Killing 1 billion people is acceptable. Even killing half the universe is acceptable, as long as the final result is what he considers beneficial. This is why Thanos scores so high here. His motive isn't about what he wants for himself. It's about what he believes he owes the universe. Whether or not that belief holds up, and we'll get to that, the motive itself isn't hollow. It's the most coherent worldview any MCU villain has ever built. On the Fear Index, Thanos scores a 9 out of 10 for motive. Not a 10, because underneath the philosophy is something we'll come back to later. A motive built on unresolved trauma rather than tested conviction. But as far as villain motives go, nothing else in the MCU comes close.
This universe is finite, its resources finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that.
Threat measures what he can do to the heroes physically. Motive measures why he does it. Psychological damage measures something quieter, what he leaves behind in the people who survive him. One of the craziest things about Thanos is that he already caused damage before his full appearance. Every loss that happened in Guardians of the Galaxy was indirectly caused by him. The Battle of New York was his doing, among others. Tony already had paranoia about Thanos before seeing his face, causing him to create a physical representation of his fear, but with a degrading mentality.
Who sent you?
I see a suit of armor around the world.
Ultron.
In the flesh.
Then Thanos arrives and brings all his nightmares to reality. He loses Peter Parker in his arms. He loses the battle. He loses half the universe. When we see him in Endgame, he's exhausted, bitter, and emotionally broken. Even after the Avengers reverse the snap, Thanos still comes back, causing a never-ending threat for Tony. He dies carrying the burden of stopping the threat he feared for years. I would argue Thor suffers the most. Think about everything Thor loses because of Thanos. Asgard was destroyed, and Thor was dreaming of rebuilding, with his brother fully by his side. But Thanos didn't even let the dream fully form before ripping it apart. At the end, Thanos uses his own emotions against him. That single sentence destroys Thor, because it's true. Thor had the chance to end it all, to stop the entire threat of Thanos with one swing. But his mind was already in a mess. He wanted revenge instead of victory, and half the universe paid the price. That's why Endgame Thor isn't simply depressed. He's drowning in guilt. Thanos turns the God of Thunder into a man who no longer trusts himself. This is where Thanos separates himself from almost every villain in the MCU, because his damage doesn't end when the fight does. Let's look at Wanda. She was forced to kill Vision, the person she loves. Then Thanos simply rewinds time and kills Vision anyway. That's one of the cruelest moments in the MCU. He forces Wanda to experience loss twice within minutes. The first sacrifice becomes meaningless. The emotional devastation remains. It's hard to overstate how psychologically brutal that is, because it doesn't just break her, it breaks her sense of morality. This turns her into someone who unleashes the chaos she once tried to contain. This isn't a villain they defeat and move past. Endgame opens with them broken. Not injured, broken. Tony walks away from the team. Steve leads support groups for people who can't process the loss. Thor drowns himself in guilt and starts unraveling as a person. Black Widow and Hawkeye are willing to sacrifice each other just to undo what Thanos did. 5 years later, and the damage is still the main plot. The deepest damage Thanos causes isn't death, it's helplessness. Every major hero believes on some level that they can make a difference, that if they fight hard enough, sacrifice enough, or endure enough, they can save the day. Thanos breaks that belief. He proves that good intentions, courage, and strength aren't enough. For one horrifying moment, the Avengers discover something they had rarely experienced before. They can do everything right and still lose. That's the emotional scar Thanos leaves behind. Sometimes the villain wins. And for 5 years, they had to wake up every morning and live with that fact. And the disturbing part is Thanos doesn't see any of this as cruelty. In his mind, he saved these people. He has no framework for the idea that maybe he broke them instead. On the Fear Index, Thanos scores a 10 out of 10 for psychological damage, because no other villain in the MCU has left this many people this permanently changed. On paper, Thanos maxes out almost everything a villain can be scored on. By every measure so far, he earns the title Perfect Villain. But the Fear Index has one more category, and it's the one that decides whether a villain's conviction is real or just a costume. Truth. Not is he telling the truth? Does his worldview survive being tested? Can it hold up under real scrutiny from other people, from consequences, from being proven wrong? Because here's the thing about Thanos that people miss when they argue about whether he had a point. A philosophy isn't measured by how confident the person holding it sounds. It's measured by whether that person is willing to let it be challenged. On the surface, Thanos presents himself as a man willing to make impossible choices for the greater good. That's the image he wants everyone, including himself, to believe.
Congratulations, you're a prophet
I'm a survivor.
who wants to murder trillions.
When he speaks to Gamora about his philosophy and his plan for the universe, he speaks with total conviction.
Don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that.
That kind of conviction can only come from a conclusion that was reached long before he was even a fully grown Titan. Thanos claims his mission is about saving lives, yet his solution is mass death. That contradiction is never addressed because he treats people as numbers rather than individuals. When he talks about balance, he's talking about populations, resources, and statistics. He never talks about families, cultures, communities, or relationships. To Thanos, half a universe is a math problem.
A simple calculus.
The moment people become numbers, almost any atrocity becomes justifiable. His philosophy is also built on an assumption he never proves, that overpopulation caused Titan's collapse. He claims he tried to save Titan from certain death, but never considers that maybe resources were hoarded, or technology failed, or war destroyed the distribution systems. Maybe his solution simply wouldn't have worked, but Thanos never investigates. He starts with the conclusion and searches for evidence afterward. Even within the MCU's own logic, the plan is flawed. Population growth doesn't stop. Resources remain finite. Conflict still exists. Civilizations still make mistakes. Eventually, the same pressures return. His solution is temporary at best, like treating a recurring illness with a painkiller and declaring the disease cured. So does he just keep wiping out half the universe every time the population grows back? The fact that he never acknowledges this reveals something important. Solving scarcity isn't actually his primary goal. Being proven right is. People point to the Eternals to justify what Thanos did, but that overlooks that the Celestial was still born. It only postponed the inevitable. Buying time doesn't solve the problem. And if he could use the stones to erase half the universe, he could just as easily have doubled the universe's resources or redistributed them equally. He never considers either option. Whenever his ideology is questioned, by Gamora, by Strange, he calls it sacrifice.
Because you murdered half the planet.
A small price to pay for salvation.
But is it really sacrifice when the people being sacrificed never had a say in it?
The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
Compare that to the farm scene in Endgame. 5 years later, Thanos isn't reflecting. He isn't wrestling with what he did. He's content. He tells the Avengers he did the right thing, that the universe is grateful, even though nobody actually thanked him.
You murdered trillions!
You should be grateful.
At his core, Thanos is carrying a wound from Titan's destruction. He watched his civilization die after nobody listened to him, and that trauma became his identity. Most people revise their beliefs when reality challenges them. Thanos does the opposite. The larger the evidence against him grows, the more committed he becomes to proving himself right. People often become attached to ideas because abandoning them feels like abandoning themselves. For Thanos, admitting he was wrong about Titan would mean accepting that his life's mission was built on a mistake. He cannot tolerate that possibility. In Endgame, when he learns the universe didn't accept his gift, he immediately abandons his original rhetoric and decides to destroy the universe and rebuild it from nothing. If his goal were truly balance, criticism shouldn't matter. If his goal were truly saving lives, opposition shouldn't change the mission. But opposition enrages him because the real goal was never balance. It was validation. He wanted the universe to agree with him, and when it didn't, he chose annihilation.
As long as there are those that remember what was, there will always be those that are unable to accept what can be. They will resist.
Yep, we're all kinds of stubborn.
Emotional conviction and intellectual courage are two different things, and Thanos only ever shows one of them. He constantly talks about sacrifice, armies, Gamora, half the universe. But the one thing he never sacrifices is his certainty. Genuine wisdom requires humility. Genuine courage requires self-doubt. Thanos possesses neither. That's why beneath the armor, the power, and the grand speeches, Thanos isn't a fearless visionary. He's a deeply wounded man running from a truth he cannot bear to face. That's the cowardice. Not fear of dying. Fear of finding out he was wrong. Because if he's wrong, then everything he sacrificed, everyone he killed, everyone he lost meant nothing. And that's a truth he can never let himself face.
With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist. I call that mercy.
So let's go back to where we started. Thanos scores a 10 on threat, a 9 on motive, a 10 on psychological damage. By almost every measure, he's the most complete villain the MCU has ever produced. Physically dominant, philosophically coherent, permanently damaging to everyone who survives him. I think there's a strong argument that Thanos is both a coward and a great villain, but not for the same reasons. The key distinction is this: physical courage and ideological courage are not the same thing. Nobody can seriously accuse Thanos of being physically cowardly. Thanos proved throughout that he would fight anyone and kill anyone that opposed his philosophy, but defends that same philosophy with the mentality of a toddler: sacrifice. That's where the accusation of cowardice becomes compelling. He isn't afraid of pain or death, but of uncertainty. He's afraid that his entire life's mission might be built on a false premise. So instead of examining alternatives, he eliminates alternatives. That can absolutely be interpreted as a form of ideological cowardice. And, ironically, that's part of what makes him such a powerful villain. The best villains don't see themselves as villains. A lesser villain says, "I want power." A better villain says, "I know what's best." The second type is far more dangerous because they can justify anything. Thanos doesn't kill because he enjoys suffering. He kills because he's convinced suffering is necessary. That conviction makes him scarier than a simple tyrant. Thanos is terrifying because his confidence feels almost admirable at first. Only when you dig beneath the surface do you realize that his certainty isn't wisdom. It's a refusal to question himself. That's why he's such an effective villain. He's the embodiment of what can happen when intelligence, conviction, trauma, and power combine without humility. In that sense, his ideological cowardice doesn't weaken him as a villain. It completes him.
Because now, I know what I must do. I will shred this universe down to its last atom. And then, with the stones you've collected for me, create a new one.
If this made you reconsider what perfect villain actually means, you've probably got a favorite of your own who deserves the same treatment. Drop them in the comments. They might be next on the Fear Index. And if you want more videos like this, breaking down the psychology behind the characters everyone thinks they already understand, subscribe. We're close to unlocking full monetization here, so every subscription genuinely helps keep this channel going.